Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare One more. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Bhajamana Radhe Govinda Bhajamana Bhajamana Krishna Kanhaiya Bhajamana Krishna Kanhaiya Bhajamana Radhe Govinda Bhajamana Radhe 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 Govinda Bhajamana Radhe 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 Govinda Bhajamana Radhe Govinda Bhajamana Radhe Govinda
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning, we will be discussing and covering Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, and the last verse of this chapter, verse 49. And the chapter is entitled The Passing of Bhishma Dev in the Presence of Lord Krishna. And the class will be given by His Holiness Candramauli Swami. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances to you and to all the devotees. Hare Krishna, we are here in Govardhan Echo Village.
Haribol.
In India. So we will try to, so I should mention something that this is India, and you know what internet is like in India, which is not very favorable to what we're doing. And yesterday I got shut down completely. So
Oh, Krishna.
let's hope it doesn't happen again.
We will pray for that, Mars, that it does not happen.
Well, I gave my class yesterday, and then as soon as the questions started, everything just collapsed. And that was it. That was the end of it. So, okay, so we'll begin by your mercy. Srimad Bhagavatam 1949. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Itra Chanumato Rajaham Vasudevanumodikaha Chakara Rajam Dhamena Trir Patamaham Vivahu. Translation. After this, the great religious king Maharaj Yudhisthira executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes of royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Shri Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira was not a mere tax collector. He was always conscious of his duty as a king, which is no less than a father or a spiritual master. The king is to see to the welfare of the citizens from all angles of social, political, economical, and spiritual upliftment. The king must know that human life is meant for liberating the encaged soul from the bondage of material conditions, and therefore his duty is to see that the citizens are properly looked after to attain this highest stage of perfection. Maharaj Yudhisthira followed these principles strictly, as will be seen from the next chapter. Not only did he follow the principles, but he also got approval from his old uncle, who was experienced in political affairs, and that was also confirmed by Lord Krishna, the speaker of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Maharaj Yudhisthira is the ideal monarch, and monarchy under a trained king like Maharaj Yudhisthira is by far the most superior form of government, superior to modern republics or governments of the people by the people. The mass of people, especially in this age of Kali, are all born Sudras, basically low-born, ill-trained, unfortunate, and badly associated. They themselves do not know the highest perfectional aim of life. Therefore, votes cast by them actually have no value, and thus persons elected by such irresponsible votes cannot be responsible representatives like Maharaj Yudhisthira. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev in the Presence of Lord Krishna. Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Asyatya De Sukarine Shri Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Vipa Sindhu Pevacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in a very succinct explanation, Srila Prabhupada has given us the duties and responsibilities and the type of government that is ideal to rule over the citizens of a particular country, particular state. In the same explanations, he's also shown us the default in today's modern governments, a default that is symptomatic of the age. Here, Kalo Sudra Sambhavan, it's mentioned that in this age, all people are born basically in the category of Sudras, even though one might be born in a Brahmin family, Kshatriya family, or Vaishya family. If they do not receive training and education accordingly, then and perform the activities of these different varnas, they are considered to be in the category of Sudras, which means those who really cannot maintain themselves and depend on working for others. Of course, Sudras working for Sudras, you have a very upside down situation where there is no leadership. In today's so-called modern world, the governments are not only not responsible to represent the population, nor provide in general what the population needs, but we also see that they are also influenced by other sectors of society that are very powerful and very avaricious. So we have today's society is nowhere near, and as Prabhupada says, the ideal monarch of Maharaj Yudhisthira and the government that supports that type of ideal rule. So we live in a very, dysfunctional, that's a nice word. Actually, it's more like, as it says that in the Mahabharata, that the leaders, the rulers in Kali Yuga will no be better than dacoits, thieves, rogues, and the persons who are only interested in gaining power, position, wealth, and are exploiting the people. So therefore, nobody likes the leaders nowadays. They elect the leaders, then they throw them out. And then they elect someone else and they do the same thing. The leaders can't represent the people. The leaders are put into power by powerful organizations, corporations, and various other influential and very wealthy groups who have vested interest in getting situations for their own aggrandizement, their own greed, and therefore, there is no real government nowadays, and people are rejecting government. People don't follow government, and those who follow it are always being exploited. They may dole out a few little trinkets of they build some roads, or they may give some welfare checks every once in a while. But it says here, Maharaj Yudhisthira was not a mere tax collector, simply collecting taxes. So here we see what is the ideal principle. And this is in line with Krishna, as it says here also, because Krishna is the one who sets up according to the Manu Samhita, which is the explanation of Krishna's rule of how leadership in society, it has to also include the welfare of people in their spiritual upliftment. And Srila Prabhupada says, it's the duty of the leader of society to make sure that everyone is following religious principles. He doesn't say they have to be a particular type of religious principles, but authorized religious principles according to the traditions that people choose to follow, which have to be within the category of bona fide. So what does that mean? That if you're a Christian, be a good Christian. If you're a Muslim, follow that tradition properly. Whatever particular alignment you've made in society according to your religious choice, then one should follow that. And it's up to the government leadership to make sure that their people are following that. So it takes on this responsible, because here it says that the king is more like no less than the father or a spiritual master. As it says that there are 7 mothers. Seven mothers. So one of the mothers that is listed in these 7 is the wife of the king, or the wife of the monarch, wife of the president. That lady, sometimes they call it first lady, is in the category of being a mother. So therefore, the king is also like a father. So the father and the mother have to see to the welfare of the citizens in all aspects, social, political, economic, spiritual, just like a father and mother in a family, but also be concerned that their children are getting everything they need to grow up nicely, healthy, get the education they need, and practice their spiritual activities. So we see how important it is. And therefore we see in today's society, leaders don't last so long. They come in for a few years and then they're kicked out again, and somebody else comes in and then follows the same rotation. And if they somehow come in under a totalitarian government, they rule by military, and anyone who goes against them is punished. So yeah, but here it's also again referring back that if there is deviations to a person who comes, just like it says that in the Madhva Samhita, the king, the leader, the president, gets 1/6 of the karma of the population they rule over. That means if the population are pious and religious, they get 1/6 of that to their own credit. And if it's the opposite, if it's sinful or sinful or degraded activities, then they also get 1/6 of that. So you see, to nowadays leaders, they come, they go, they get assassinated, they get voted in, they get voted out. It's when we look at the history of Vedic culture, we see throughout the world that sometimes kings would rule 50, 60, hundreds of years. Maharaj Bharat, who was the king of the whole world at one time, he ruled for many, many, many decades, or even more. And then we have many other great kings, such as Maharaj Prithu, Maharaj Parikshit, ruling the world for many, many years, because they were loved by them, the citizens, and the citizens also supported them in so many different ways. And the kings were always, as it says here, and this is not just some exaggeration or some nice way to explain things, they are like the father or the spiritual master, actually both. And so when people have that kind of leadership, then people are happy. So today, Prabhupada says, today people are suffering because of bad leadership. They elected persons who were not qualified, and therefore they are also getting the results of that. And Prabhupada goes also on to say that these same people come from the same category of the people who are voting them in. Therefore, what can you expect? You know, if you have a bunch of persons who are not trained, who are simply on the platform of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, who simply look for sense gratification as the benefit of life, then it's no better than an animal society. And therefore, if one animal elects another animal, what do you have? You have just, the animal farm. Therefore, there is always fight, there's always problems. But here we find Maharaj Yudhisthira. He was trained, and he also received knowledge both from Bhishma Dev, who was also a monarch in the sense that he was qualified, although he never took the position. He was born in a very royal family, and his father was one of the ideal kings, King Santanu. And he knew how to rule. In fact, he taught Maharaj Yudhisthira these principles, how to rule the government. It's interesting, I should mention that His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj wrote 2 books called Leadership 1 and Leadership 2. And Leadership 2, a lot of it, most of it, in fact, includes the teachings that Bhishma Dev gave to Maharaj Yudhisthira on what is the responsibility of a leader in the state, in society. So we find that is not happening. But Yudhisthira Maharaj was ideal in all sense like that. And he was also given training by his uncle, Dhritarashtra, who was also, in one sense, although he was blind, and he was also knew the principles of how to rule, although he deviated in one sense by favoring his avaricious sons headed by Duryodhana over the Pandavas, and that was his downfall. Now, so this is what we have from Maharaj Yudhisthira is an ideal king. In the Mahabharata, it also mentions that after Yudhisthira took the throne, he began a program where he allowed for each and any citizen within his society and the world, actually, because he was the monarch of the world at that time, that they could come, and if they had a problem, or if they wanted to speak to the king, they could make an appointment, and then that appointment would allow them to come to see the king personally and speak their problem or whatever was their concern. So Yudhisthira Maharaj was just like a spiritual master who allows his disciples and followers to come to meet him and discuss. So it wasn't that he was busy with so many things. That was also there, but his main concern is the welfare of the public. We see that today in Krishna consciousness also. When the devotees get everything they need to practice devotional service, they do wonderful service. They become fixed in their service. They contribute in a very meaningful way to the principles of preaching Krishna consciousness. They do wonderful service. If the devotees are not taken care of by the leadership and in our society, and they find some lack in whatever they need in order to keep the body and soul together, in order to perform devotional service, along with the training that they need as a disciple, then then we have so many problems. So it's the duty of the leaders to be very aware of their followers and see what they need, Just like there was an example, which is a small little example, that Prabhupada gave when Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan. The year was 1970, 76. And Prabhupada had come to New Vrindavan, and the day was June 30th. That was the actual day. And Prabhupada had an outside meeting with the devotees in one of the devotees' houses outside the house. And everyone gathered, and Prabhupada came and he sat there and he was speaking. As he began, he saw one of the disciples, one girl, and he could see that she was cold. It was a little cool that evening. And so Prabhupada immediately turned to the leader of the community, who at that time was Kuladri. He said, they won't say anything, but it's your duty to make sure that they have whatever they need. So Prabhupada was concerned that this one girl, her name was Gopalasa Priya. She still remembers the incident, how Prabhupada turned his attention to her because she was feeling cold. She didn't say anything. But Prabhupada noticed that she needed a sweater or some kind of covering, and he immediately made the point to the leader of the community. So this is how leadership should be, that they should see to the needs of those who they are guiding and working above, and to make sure that they have everything they need. And it's the duty of those who follow to be very obedient to those who are leading. And Prabhupada made this short little aphorism. He said that the leaders should be very affectionate to the subordinates, and the subordinates should be very obedient to leadership. He says, when that is there, then you have a successful society, you have a successful arrangement, government, sadhu sangha. So yeah, nowadays people are not trained in leadership. Sometimes people get leadership because they are very expert at knowing how to maneuver their way in such a way as they get the position in post. And then they always take that position in post to use it for some personal aggrandizement in one way or the other, but that's not leadership. As we, again, going back to Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he was a revolutionary in establishing what we call servant leadership. Servant leadership. How one in a position of leadership is not a leader in the true sense of the word. They are leading in the position of serving. In other words, they're the best of all servants because they have great responsibilities to lead by serving those who are working under their guidance. So that was very much needed in our society. And I remember one particular government personality from Michigan was one of the first programs we had in honor of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's disappearance. It was October 13th, I think October 16th or 13th, I think it was 16th, 2005 in Detroit in the temple, and one what we say local senator had come, and he had read Maharaj's book on leadership. He was speaking, and he was quite incredulous in the sense that he had never heard the term that a leader is a servant. But after he read and understood the point that Maharaj had made in describing what it means to be a leader, he accepted it wholeheartedly and understood that this is the success of leadership, to be an ideal servant of those you are leading, not servant of the paycheck you get, or not servant of the glorifications you get for having such a position. These things are called perks. These things are extra. They come by way of some kind of responsibility or necessity. The most important thing is the welfare of the persons you are leading. And so we have ideal kings in the history of Vedic culture. Maharaj Yudhisthira, Maharaj Parikshit, Bharat Maharaj, so many more, Parikshit Maharaj, many great kings who established, not only did they lead successfully, but they established religious principles in their position of leadership. So this is very important, especially in today's world, where we have not only the opposite, we have this extreme opposite, where nobody even believes what the leaders are saying nowadays because they all lie. They don't tell the truth because if they were to tell the truth, they will be no longer in the position of leadership. They will be removed. One devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada had for a while pushed this idea of Krishna consciousness president. We had started a party in the early days of Krishna consciousness, not in the very early days, but in the early days, which was In God We Trust party, where Prabhupada inspired certain persons who had that acumen, that ability to lead, and could understand a little bit about the political arrangements to take the position of running for president. And we ran one devotee for president. But after a while, Prabhupada stopped the whole thing. He thought it was useless because he said, even if you get in there, you can't do anything, because as soon as you get in there and you try to change things around for the benefit of people, and then they either kill you or they remove you in some way or another. And this is the problem, because the leaderships in the governments are not the actual leaderships in society. The governments are simply puppets for these big industrialists who have multi-million-dollar projects and who control the governments through economic pressure and even military influence. So this is today's world. Therefore, welcome to Kali Yuga. Of course, we don't welcome anybody to this age. It's just what it is. Therefore, the only way we can somehow survive in this world, this particular society, is to become very serious in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And then we are taking shelter of the perfect leader, Krishna himself. And Krishna will provide for the devotees who take shelter of him by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and engage in devotional service. Then we can accept Krishna as the supreme monarch, as the person who will provide everything we need in our life. We don't depend on today's governments unless the governments actually show that which they cannot do, that they are responsible personalities. So this is Kali Yuga, and as the statement goes, Kali Yuga will continue to gravitate down where we can't even imagine how bad it will be. And this is the age of Kali. But as it says, Kalir Doshani De Rajan Astiyako Mahagun Kirtana Eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangam Varam Vijay. And in this age, chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the bright light that will elevate persons above the influence of Kali Yuga and fix them under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The problem with us is we follow numerical vows when we chant 16 rounds. That's nice. But that is not the actual injunctions from the scriptures. The injunctions from the scriptures is Satatam Kirtayan Tomam. Always chant the holy names of the Lord constantly, 24 hours a day. Or we might say as much as you can, and consider numerical vows to be a foundation for the bottom line. In other words, we should never go below our numerical vow, but we should always be chanting more and more and more. Okay, so I'll stop there and see if we got any comments or questions.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. It was such a wonderful class, Maharaj. It's an amazing topic, especially what's happening in today's world. This is such an amazing topic. We'd like to ask devotees if you have any questions, please, comments or clarification, please either do raise your hand or you can jump right in. We have about 30 participants, so I'm going to do my best to answer the question, monitor devotees wanting to ask questions. I'm going down the list here. My assistants are not well, so it's just me, Maharaj.
Oh, okay. Can we go to the gallery? And,
yes, Maharaj. I'm going to do that now. Let me see. There.
Of course, we hope that they get well.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Pray that they get well, actually.
Any questions from devotees? Any points? Any thoughts? Marge, actually, I have a question, and actually three, but I'll ask one of them for now. In the purport, your Prabhupada was explaining how Maharaj Yudhishthira, being such a perfect leader, and how a leader is to help the citizens attain the highest stage of perfection. So as a servant leader, Maharaj, how can we help our communities, our congregation to attain, the highest stage of perfection? How can we help them as servants?
I think it starts by understanding our position, our responsibility as a leadership over us, the persons who we are leading, and seeing what is the responsibility of that leadership, what are the duties that we have, learning how to fulfill those duties, but also, in addition, as we mentioned, to see, as we observe each and every person, we see what they can contribute and what they need in order to contribute. We ask persons sometimes to do services, but we also have to see what they need in order to do the service. So it's up to the leadership to provide the facilities and the resources when needed to inspire those who we are leading in their service, and to monitor that also. In other words, to see as things go on, how they're making progress, like that. So you might say that might be a lot for one person. Therefore, leadership requires a team, and there's different levels within the team. There's those who are on the top, who are actually facilitating those underneath them, who are also have different services that work with the people in general. So just like you see in the temples, you have a temple president, then you may have a head pujari, you have a head cook, you have someone who is responsible for the vehicles in the temple, someone who is responsible for the accounting. So working with the leaders as a leader within and establishing another echelon of leadership to make sure that all of the different categories of activities are needed. And of course, we see there's one called devotee care. That's personal needs of devotees, whether the devotees need a facility, some resources in order to do their service. There should be some kind of ministry or arrangement for that. The one that comes to my mind is that in our temples, sometimes someone will find a need to change to Grihastha ashram. So there is a need for connecting someone with another person. So we call that the marriage counseling or marriage ministry. where that's there, and then devotees can put their names in. And this is just an example using this particular category where they can find someone within the realm of Krishna consciousness to develop a relationship and eventually get married. So we facilitate that also. Food programs, preaching programs, there should be someone in charge of the different categories that make up the temple responsibilities, the temple activities. So that has to be there. If you just have a leader and then you have followers, it's not going to work. You have to have this middle echelon, which is more like a governing, not a governing, but a facilitator for all of the different needs broken up into individuals who have that responsibility. For instance, I'll give you an example. You have a kitchen, you have many, you say you maybe have 3 or 4 cooks, and then you have the head cook. What is the head cook? He doesn't do so much cooking, or she doesn't do so much cooking, because he makes sure everyone else has everything they need, are on time, are doing their service for cooking. And then the temple president or the leader will check with the head cook to make sure everything is going on. If the head cook needs something, then the temple president will provide that so they can provide for those. So it has to be, like, and the principle is care and concern, like that. Just like we also now we have what is called the mentorship system. So the spiritual master cannot be so much personally involved with each and every devotee, especially certain spiritual masters. They have so many devotees. Some of our spiritual masters have 30,000, 40,000 disciples. How are they going to take care of all of these disciples? So a system has to be set up where there are responsible persons who are qualified, who are fixed in their spiritual life, who have the knowledge to be leaders underneath the spiritual master, who can guide his disciples in their practice of Krishna consciousness, and help to be accountable for those persons, both from their position and from the position of the disciples. So these systems have to be put in place, depending on how big your temple facility is, your yatra is, and then to that extent, you need to set up this middle system of control and, we say, facilitation. And that's just a succinct, very quick description how things could work in a more ideal way.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Like just recently we set up something with my disciples, but before then I couldn't even respond to any questions like, how is this disciple doing? I don't know. I don't know what she's doing or what he's doing, or how much they're actually progressing. What do they need to progress in Krishna consciousness? What are the struggles they're going through? So so we have to have some kind of, so that's the same in the temple. That's the same. You see, just like you see in the government, you have the government, you have the vice president, you have the secretary, you have the different ministers, you have cabinet members, you have the military, you have different aspects of a broader society which take care of different responsibilities.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. That really helped. We started a similar program at our temple, being the size of it being small. We called it we called Bhakti Engagement Group, where we have few devotees who really wanted, who's very much keen into wanting to progress in Krishna consciousness, and we had to created a spiritual mentorship program just recently, a few weeks ago, actually a few months ago. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's good. That's needed. It's needed wherever there is organization, there has to be echelon like that.
Thank you, Maharaj. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to yourself, Maharaj. All glories to all devotees present. Maharaj, during your nice class, you mentioned that if people are following other religions, then they should practice those religions properly. But it seems to me it's hard to say what properly means, because in all the world's major religions, there are so many different groups that have disagreements and disputes with each other.
Well, that's Kali Yuga. Another feature of Kali Yuga, no one can agree with anybody. But this is a statement from Prabhupada. I'm just repeating that. He says it's the duty of the government to make sure that each and every individual within the state is following the religion of their choice, according to the principles of that religion. So he gives a general statement. Now, how to do that in a practical way, you would have to have some kind of ministry to set up to both investigate and see, what is the ideal, what does the scripture say according to a particular tradition, and if people are following, and the leaders in that tradition also are following that. So yeah, we find that this is it's not that the religious sector is independent, but they're getting what they need through a leader who is qualified to organize things so people follow nicely. So the state is called Rajarsi. Rajarsi means Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means a king who is saintly, or who governs by saintly principles. So we might say a king is in the category of Kshatriya, so that's Raja. And Rishi means those who are saintly, the Brahminical order. So in order for society to be ideal according to, or progressive, which means ideal, it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 things make up an ideal society. 1, Brahminical culture, a class of leaders who are versed in the scriptures, who live according to the scriptures, who can teach the scriptures, and who guide the society leaders, such as the Kshatriyas, in religious principles, spiritual knowledge. 2, you have to have what is called, there has to be protection of cows. Cow protection, agriculture, all of these are a very integral part of, because people need food, animals require protection, and society needs this facility in order to support their principles of governing. So cows have to be protected, women have to be protected, children have to be protected, Brahmins have to be protected. What is the last one? And old people must require protection and whatever they need to live. So yeah, that's also provided by the government, these 5 categories of protection. It says that if a government doesn't neglect any one of them, especially the Brahmins or the cows, the whole society will gravitate down. And that's what you have today. And the third one is God consciousness. So society means Brahminical culture, cow protection, God consciousness. And there's a very lengthy explanation of these 3 principles in the first canto. In the later part of the first canto, chapter 17, chapter 18, you can read the details that Prabhupada gets into really quite thoroughly, describing these 3 and how they correlate together as a perfect society. So where do you find any of those 3 today? You know, then there's this idea that, you know, Vedic culture was a culture that was good many years ago, but now we have this modern society. And therefore, these things are what as they say, old-fashioned, out of date, no longer applicable. No, these are given by God, given through scripture, given through saintly persons as the ideal way to live in society. They're not old-fashioned, they're not antiquated, they're not outdated. No. The whole idea in today's society is governed towards economic development and sense gratification. This is the goal of every particular country in the world. Sense gratification, economic development. These two things are not the goal of life. It's simply a feature. These two things, the needs of the senses and the artha and kama, follow dharma. They are not independent of dharma. Dharma, artha, karma, moksha. The four purusharthas, or activities of human society. But they've thrown out dharma, they've thrown out moksha, and then it's all about artha and kama, that's all. Therefore, you have an animal society.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Yeah, so religion is the constitutional principle of each and every living entity to worship God. Therefore, that facility should be given to its maximum amount. Everyone should have the maximum amount of facility in order to execute their religious principles. And that's the duty of the government to see that that goes on.
Thank you, Maharaj. Namrata Mataji, you have a question, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, today I have a question which was frequently asked by many of the relatives or friends to me. And I seek forgiveness if there is any offense in this question, but they were asking about the attack of Bangladesh, which is the Bangladesh ISKCON temple is attacked twice. So why is ISKCON not under the process of making a Kshatriya community? Like they have started the projects of GEV, which is GEV New Raju Vrindavan and Krishna Valley and all, which is the ideal projects as a Vaishya community. So this was the question from that why is ISKCON taking any steps towards towards making an ideal Kshatriya community?
No, they're not, but individuals within ISKCON are doing something. That's as much as we have. It's not been given priority by the leadership in the society, and that's unfortunate because it's part of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. He says that we should establish Varnashram Dharma. Varnashram Dharma means to engage people according to their propensity in devotional service. And so you have the Brahmins, you have the Kshatriyas, you have the Vaishyas. So each should be, all persons who have those tendencies and proclivities should be given education to work according to their capacity and trained first and then work according to their capacity. That's part of Varnashram Dharma, and that's also part of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. If you listen to Srila Prabhupada's statements and you read his books, especially in the first canto, he speaks about the Kshatriyas have 3 duties. It's called, what is it? protection, organization, protection, and welfare. We give it an acronym. It's called POW, P-O-W. So these are the three areas that the Kshatriyas or the leaders in society have. That they are all three. Now we have a class of devotees in our society who are well trained in fighting. Personally, I got involved in trying to establish Kshatriya Dharma in our society in the year 2013. And we were moving in the direction which was very good. Unfortunately, things got a little topsy-turvy. There was some dissension and there was no support from the society and things started to break down. Fortunately, we did get in certain areas, we established protection in a few of the temples around the world, but not more than that. Yeah, because this is the way Kali Yuga is. You know, at any time we can get attacked, and you see that happened in Bangladesh more than 2 times. It's happened more than 2 times, not just 2 times. 2 times is within the recent, within the last year, but it's happened much more than that. So yeah, I've known devotees. I know many temples that have been attacked. Devotees have been killed. So it's been going on. So we need that. It's part of Varnashram Dharma. It's part of Prabhupada's instructions, and obviously it's needed in order to protect the devotees, the deities, the temple, and the properties of the temple. All of that requires protection because it all belongs to Krishna and it's meant for devotional service. And you're living in Kali Yuga, and therefore you're going to see that these things will happen and they'll continue to happen. Not only from a certain sector of society, but it can happen from other sectors of society also. Yeah, so yeah, I also share your concern, or concern of that person who questioned you. We need to put more priority in establishing Kshatriya Dharma. And believe it or not, it's happening on the sides with smaller groups of devotees who are working in an area, and they're making it their priority. I can't get into too much of the details of what's going on, but it's happening as a parallel thing to our society. But if the society itself understands and gives it support, then it will be established throughout the society, and that's what we really need.
So Maharaj, the devotees who understand this aspect of Kshatriya Dharma, how can we tell them, like if there is a next generation coming up who are like the devotee, the children of devotee families, how can we train them according to Kshatriya Dharma? Like we give them a clinical education, like we tell them how to be a grihastha. How can we teach them a Kshatriya Dharma as well?
Well, it says it's the duty of the leadership to evaluate and see who has then those proclivities and tendencies and then train accordingly. It's not everyone should be trained as Kshatriyas or everyone is trained as Brahmanas. Just like one of the devotees who I was working with, who was involved with martial arts and training, he said for years they were trying to train me as a Brahmana. And then I just realized I wasn't a Brahmana. And then he excelled what he understood, that his tendency was more in the area of organization and protection. So he became quite qualified in that area. So that's in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes, it's the duty, and he writes it very strongly, it's the duty of the spiritual master to observe his disciples and see how to engage them in devotional service. So we're not doing that. The leadership's not doing that, or is not doing it enough. And therefore, Varnashram College. So we have one devotee in our society who is establishing a Varnashram College right now, and it's developing, and it's going to take about a year before it gets established as a working college. We're getting the land, we're getting the buildings done. That project is going on right now. So, but Prabhupada's program was Varnashram College in many places. If you listen to Prabhupada's lecture, March 14th, 1974, also on March 1974, morning walk conversation in Vrindavan, Prabhupada outlines the whole idea of Varnashram, establishing a Varnashram college, how it should be run, who should be the teachers, how the subject matter should be organized. He gets into it in very great detail. It's a very long lecture. It's not a lecture, it's a morning walk conversation with some of his leaders. They discuss that. The problem is we don't listen to Prabhupada's lectures and we don't know what's going on. We think, maybe we read the books once in a while. We don't need to read his lectures. He gives a lot of instructions, a lot of directions to our society. Everything Prabhupada said is relevant. It's not like something is important and something is not. And he tells us what is most important. And engaging devotees according to their propensities, their nature, will make a qualitative difference in the type of religious society we have. Like I know one temple, I won't mention it, where the pujaris, they're pujaris, so pujari work is Brahminical work. But the pujaris are Kshatriyas, they have that Kshatriya nature. And so they always fight about who should do the service and how the service should go on. So you can't put Kshatriyas together, they just don't. They have to have their little independent area to work with and to rule over. That's how Kshatriyas are. Brahmins can work together like that. Vaishyas can work together. Kshatriyas can work in cooperation with others, but they still have to have absolute control. That's a Kshatriya. So you must be a Kshatriya because you are a temple president. So that's what it meant. That's what it takes. So this Varnashram is not, it's not something new. It's Krishna's arrangement. Varnashramacharya, Jatarvarna Tamas Shrishta Guna Karma Vibhagasyaha. Krishna says, I set up this system. There are 4 kinds of people. They're the Brahminical inclined, the organizational inclined, those who are farmers, agriculturists, businessmen, they're inclined, and then the supporting factors are the sudras, workers. These 4 types of people make up a complete society. And when people are engaged accordingly and engaged in devotional service, then you have fast and very quick results. So that's still, as Prabhupada said, 50% of my mission is still undone. What was that? Varnashram, he said it. Daivi Varnashram, we have to clarify, it's not just Varnashram, it's Daivi Varnashram. Spiritual Varnashram. So it's something that we should take seriously and preach about it and talk about it and inspire others to get involved in working in that way. If we wait for the leadership and in a general sense to take a stance and do it, it may never happen, unfortunately. So we have to do it within our own areas. That's all.
So Maharaj, we have to recognize our own self, our own skills, and maybe talk to our mentors or spiritual master and work in that direction.
Yeah, get guidance, suggestions. And also if there's training needed, that should be available.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, we all know intuitively when we work according to our nature, we are happy and we contribute in a very wonderful way.
Okay. I think I have something to answer them, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vrindavan Nath Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, like my point is that this is considered to be golden age of Kali Yuga, while atmosphere is already changing from bad to worse, like epidemic, then natural crisis and others. But I observed one thing, personally, that my spiritual sadhana has got more stronger than it was before in this crisis. Although it's not good, like at human level, like what's going on, people are suffering. But because of like whether working from home or other regions in last few years, really much stronger. And I was thinking, in normal situations, we are always hankering for some material opulences. So are these material crises and difficulties happening in our lives? So because Krishna wants us to be more and more serious, more focused towards him, that normally we will not really take our path towards him. But in this kind of crisis.
No, not really. Crisis means material existence. It's just material existence is a crisis. if people don't live by religious principles, it gets worse and worse and worse. Krishna puts the three modes of material nature into effect, and the modes work accordingly. He has nothing to do with the modes. He wants each and every one of us to be Krishna conscious, but he gives us our independence. So people choose to be sinful, things go down, and even good people are affected by that. So you are just one of, I would say, many who have grown in this, what we say, apparent crisis. But the crisis is an ongoing thing. It's not, sometimes, as Prabhupada said, the material world is always bad. Sometimes it's not as bad, but it's always bad. So what is happening now, and I can try to illustrate, is that these horrors that are going on around the world are ushering in Lord Chaitanya's movement. Before the sun comes up, things get darker and darker. There's an old saying, the darkest hour is just before dawn. So Lord Chaitanya's movement will rise up, but it's up to the devotees to make it happen. But Lord Chaitanya will empower anyone who is willing to take the responsibility to preach Krishna consciousness and to live according to the principles of, Sanatana Dharma. So the Lord allows whatever goes on because he doesn't interfere with the three modes of material nature, but he gives protection and direction to the devotees. People are sinful, demons are in control. If people are pious, the demigods are in control. If people are very sinful and very degraded, then the yakshas and the rakshasas are in control. So right now the demons are in control. Just read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, verse number 8, which explains everything clearly. And ultimately, when people are sinful, everything goes down. The earth withholds her gifts of nature. Crime increases, violence increases, dissension increases, so many things. And the biggest sin in the world is cow killing. And that is causing so many calamities, as it says that the mother cow, and the cow is our mother. And therefore, and that's not some kind of euphemism, and the cow is, we're actually killing our mother, and we expect to be happy in the world. Systematic slaughter of thousands and thousands of cows worldwide every day, hundreds of thousands worldwide. It's producing heavy karma on the society. And Prabhupada says, then you have to send your children into the war fields to be slaughtered, just like the cows are being sent to the slaughterhouse to be slaughtered. Same thing. There's no difference. This is the law of nature. This is the law of God. This cow killing, systematic cow killing, has caused tremendous suffering upon the human society, and will continue to do so unless it's curtailed. That's why another part of Prabhupada's movement is cow protection, farm communities, agriculture, simple living. My god sister, I gave two classes just a couple of weeks ago about, she wrote a book, it's called Bhakti Milk. And it'll be published in the form of a distributed book soon. How by buying into commercial dairies, we're actually supporting cow slaughter. By taking milk from commercial outlets, because these commercial outlets, they have agreements with slaughterhouses that when the cow gets old, when the cow no longer can produce milk, they send the cow to the slaughterhouse. So yeah, so the book is available, it's done, it's not fully collated in print yet, but it's also a statement by the GBC that by the year 2022, this year, Janmashtami, each and every temple must have, this is a GBC resolution, must have a program for providing milk and milk products for the deities from our own society, our own farms, not from outside. Otherwise, we're supporting, not indirectly, but directly, cow slaughter by buying and using milk products from commercial dairies. And if you want more information, just listen to my classes. I gave 2 classes, I think a couple weeks ago. Devotees remember those classes. We covered that in detail. And then anyone who wants a copy of the book, I have it on my computer, and I'll be happy to send it to you. I think I send it to Srimati to distribute it to anyone who asks. If there's anyone out there would like it, I can also send it to Anasuya. And it's a very important book. When you read it, Devamrita Swami has written a very significant article which supports this whole thing, debunking and defeating any other argument supporting the use of commercial milk. So what I'm going back to is your original question. Yes, it's getting very dark out there, and a lot of it is due to systematic killing of cows. Wars, pestilence, disease, all of these are results of animal slaughter. Because Krishna loves each and every living entity equally. He doesn't favor one living entity over another because he's aham vida, aham pita, aham bija. He is the seed-giving father of all life. So if we abuse any living entity unnecessarily for our own selfish sense gratification, we are committing great sinful activities. It's an offense against the Supreme Lord directly, along with being an offense against that living entity. And we can go into other areas that are very sinful. So yeah, so you will see, and don't be surprised that things will get darker and darker, but eventually Lord Chaitanya has a plan to bring in the golden age. And each and every one of us has some responsibility to help contribute to that golden age by preaching Krishna consciousness, by living according to spiritual values, spiritual principles.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. And thank you for correcting me that this is not Krishna, this is his three modes. And I just mentioned like 7.1.8. In the last line, Srila Prabhupada has also mentioned that this is not the partiality of Supreme Lord. So thank you,
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, that chapter is called the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equal to everyone. And he's all good.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And just like your milk related, that 2 classes, Guru Maharaj, 22nd and 23rd Feb, anybody would like to, it's all available in Guru Maharaj, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud. So it's all there. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a very nice question. Before we go to Sri Devi's question, Maharaj, Anusuya asked, where is the Vanashram College being set up? And she asked a question in the chat.
In Mayapur.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Sri Devi Mataji, please go with your question.
Thank you, Anusuya. Please accept my humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, thank you for this really great class. You're just hanging on to every word that you're speaking because this is our future. What you're speaking is going to determine our future, how seriously we take the instructions that are being given now and which are in Prabhupada's books. I'm so thankful. Thank you very much. That's one thing. My second, actually my question is, Guru Maharaj, and please, I'm not asking this to offend or to annoy anyone. I'm just asking for my own, clarification. It is very obvious that in many, many temples, we have leadership that is less than ideal. Let me put it that way. Is it that we are going through a phase of teething troubles and, this is a learning phase. We are a very new organization. We're just getting our act together. Even the caliber of people who are coming to Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada said, the children of your children will be the real devotees. So maybe it is us, we are not so qualified, being very fallen. And what happens is that people get traumatized, people get put off, people sometimes leave. I mean, all kinds of things we have gone through and all the scandals that have taken place, etc., etc. So should we just take it as this is, a learning curve and we are learning lessons and we are going to get better and a different caliber of people is getting trained so that we have better leaders for the future? Or we are just going to fumble and bumble along and, catch some person running down the corridor and say, you're it now, you're the temple president. And then after that, he is, flying by the seat of his pants, literally. And, everybody just gets fried and then you just put up a stiff upper lip and say, okay, I'll do the best I can. And we just, carry on saying, okay, chant Hare Krishna Prabhu and everything will be okay.
Every service requires training and education. And you train those who are qualified, and then you give them education also. So evaluating, training, education. Evaluation comes first. Emergence, just like people say, well, I want second initiation because the temple requires a pujari. Now, does that mean you're qualified just because the temple requires a pujari and you've been maybe first initiated for a couple of years? No, you require some qualifications and then training also. Yeah, so training has to be there. And training means education, just like when we talk, go back to Kshatriya Dharma. Kshatriya Dharma doesn't simply mean one aspect of it is the martial aspect. So there are devotees who know martial arts quite good, and they're really good fighters. I know many like that. But they also have to know what is the Shastric principles that make up that particular Dharma or that particular Varna. If they're just trained in the military side and they don't know the philosophical side, the educational side, then it might turn into something that is quite ugly. So you have to know what it means to practice a particular service in a particular way. So training has to be there. That's why Prabhupada said, Varnashram college. It goes back to that again. I mean, Prabhupada said that in 1974. What year is it now? 2 more years will be 50 years later. So something has happened, obviously. But we put emphasis in certain areas and de-emphasize other areas. But then if you de-emphasize some of the important areas, which means devotee training and devotee education, then the quality of our society is simply going to be just like any other religion. You go and you do your prayers and you perform some of the rituals, you chant some rounds, you eat some prasadam, and you sit at the table discussing what's going on for the next 2 hours. Nothing. Like I'm here in GEV. So I was asking one brahmachari today, how many brahmacharis are here? So he said there's 60 brahmacharis. So, and that's a small number right now because of the situation. So each of those 60 brahmacharis has a particular service, and they work according to that service. And some of them are training as they perform the service, and others are already trained in doing the service. So that covers all areas of the activities of the community. No area is left out. And then there's management on an overall level, and then so all of that has to be there. Yeah. So we go back to the same, pretty much the question that Raj brought up. Yeah. We have to have education, evaluation, education, and training. When Prabhupada started the movement he knew he didn't have much time, so he allowed people to do different services, and he gave people service that they were not qualified to do because it was emergency. But that was in the initial stages. That was not Prabhupada's overall program. It was just the need at the time. But we somehow or other haven't evolved out of that thing. We see, oh, here's a free devotee and here's a service that needs to be done. And
So
sometimes
Guru
it goes
Maharaj,
on. And sometimes it goes on and sometimes it doesn't. But when one is trained and educated, then I mean Prabhupada's statement on Varnashram College is so direct and so clear and so outlined. He outlined it in a few. He explained it again in February 14th, 1977, in a room conversation with Hari Sari Prabhu and Satsarup Maharaj. You can get that conversation. It was in Mayapur. In Mayapur, February 14th, 1977, room conversation with. And again, Prabhupada emphasized, that's just a few months before he departed.
so Guru Maharaj, again, I'm just asking this because I want to know for my own self. I'm not asking this to stir the pot or to create controversy or anything of the sort. I'm asking because isn't there now an urgent need for us to get our act together and not carry on the dysfunctional patterns of the past, but actually put people in place with training and education so that we don't mess up anymore?
Yeah, well, it's happening in some places. It's actually being done. So it's not like, but our society runs not as a uniform society, but individual yatras, temples are really meant to do it in their local areas. So those who are leaders and the GBC representatives should be initiating these different programs. Just like we tried to do something in Slovenia. And it's going on, but then again, we're getting resistance from some of the people who are involved, who are leaders in the present society. So we have to work out those resistance, because you see there's vested interests. We've established a lot of vested interests within the society, and the people, in order for these programs to really develop, we have to move away from vested interest and see the overall interest. So it's not so easy. Once you establish something in the wrong way, it's harder to reestablish the right way.
Right, exactly. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. Please give us your blessings so we, at least, your disciples, can try to do our very best to follow your instructions and follow Srila Prabhupada's directions.
Yeah, keep strong sadhana. That will be the foundation for anything else you do.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Your blessings are earnestly solicited.
Thank you for a nice question too, Sri Devi Mataji, and thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful answer. Maharaj, it's almost 9:30 a.m., 9:25 a.m. here. I don't know if you would, I don't know what time it is in India, if you would like to chant around, or would you like to end it?
We got 7 minutes to 7 in the evening.
Oh, okay, then we're good. I'm not good with this time thing, Maharaj. Please forgive me, Maharaj. It's still in... I'm very slow in that department. Marge, would you, actually, before we end, if there are any other questions from devotees, any other comments, clarification, please do jump right in, raise your hand if you have any questions, any comments, and just going down the list so that I don't forget anyone. If there isn't, Maharaj, since there isn't, would you like to chant around, Maharaj?
Yeah, we can.
Haribol.
It's a nice way to conclude. It's appropriate. It's better than say goodbye, have a nice day. It's better than chant Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj.
That's nice too. Okay, so. I welcome the opportunities to chant with the devotees. Okay. Jai Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Before we end, this request from a person named Colby Smith. He wants that book. Should I send
Marge,
it to you?
he's actually part of our temple. If you would like to send it to me, Marge, I can send it to him.
Yeah, I have it handy, so I'll send it right away.
Sure, Marge. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'll get it to you, Colby.
Jai Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. 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 Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. You may continue to chant if you like, but we just did 2 rounds, so that was.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for leading us into the chanting. And thank you to the devotees. I think some of them said that they had to start work, at least in the US. So that was another thing that I was trying to manage here. And thank you all the devotees for joining us. Maharaj, just a humble reminder, Maharaj, that we're looking forward to your visit to the US, specifically Pennsylvania.
It's the only state in the entire US that I have health insurance in, so.
Very happy, Maharaj.
It might be good to go there.
Yes, Maharaj, please do come. And just reminding you, Maharaj, about our Rath Yatra on July 9th. That's confirmed. We just got the permit. So really looking forward to having you, Maharaj.
Yeah, things are a little unsure about that time.
Uh-oh. I had my hopes high.
At the end of June, we're doing a disciples retreat in London.
Okay.
For 3 days. And then after that, we'll see if I can get to the US. Let's see, I don't know.
Well, Maharaj, just tell them that you have to come for checkup in Pennsylvania.
Well.
No. Maharaj is doing retreat in London. Thank you.
That he can come.
Yeah, okay.
Your voice can.
Well, the retreat is open to anyone and everyone if you want to come. It's not just for
why don't you guys come over?
I committed myself to go for there's a temple function at Baltimore Temple, the big event that weekend that I had to commit myself to. If not, Nila Madhava Prabhu would not be very happy.
Well, it's the 24th, 25th, 26th of June. 24th is the evening, 25th, 26th, Saturday and Sunday, and half a day on Monday, 27th.
After that, can you come, Maharaj?
Yeah, well, first you have to see the place that we're having the retreat at. It rivals Vaikuntha in opulence. So I didn't choose it, but it's got everything. So yeah, it's good because we have all on-site Prashadam, on-site residents. Everybody's together. Nobody leaves for 2.5, 3 days. Everybody's in one place. So it makes the program really, really powerful. So people don't have to travel in and out to come. It's all in one place. It's on I think it is about 60 acres of land or more, and it's a castle, actually. It was purchased by the devotees, some devotees in the UK, we're not sure who, as a retreat program for, anyone who wants to use it for that purpose. So it's quite opulent, to say the least. But it's nice. It's got a nice, surroundings. It's all in nature. So it's more like a vacation along with a retreat. So yeah, but I can plan. You have to keep reminding me by sending certain things.
I will
said that-
definitely keep reminding you, Maharaj. We need your mercy.
If you send me an email
Yes.
with some of the times and the dates in there, I'll put it in an area where I can refer to it. So
I will send an email today, Maharaj. I will.
yeah, that would be good.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. We really, really need your mercy and blessings. Absolutely. And we thank the devotees for joining us. And we wish you all a wonderful day. Vanchakrapati vyascha kripasindavevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Candramauli Swami ki jai.
Yay.
Prabhupada ki jai. Srimati,
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
it is a good chance, very good chance I can do the program on Sunday.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, I
so-
think there is a change in the UK time on the day, daylight savings. And I think the time will be 4:30 p.m. for you in India.
Oh, that makes it a little tighter, but still there's a chance.
Okay, Guru Maharaj.
So that's for sure. There's a daylight savings time change.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, Vrindavanath Prabhu said, confirm me.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Adasuya, for keeping this wonderful Bhakti, Srimad Bhagavatam program going. It's so valuable. Devotees can get together around the world and discuss Krishna consciousness.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your mercy and your blessings. And we always look for more and more mercy and blessings from you, Maharaj.
True, Guru Maharaj. That's so true. We all need your mercy.
It's like you come up to a person, you say, can you give me some money? And he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out the inside of the pocket, and that's all he has. That's me. When you ask for mercy, I go reach in the pocket and I see that there's nothing in there.
Guru Maharaj, you have got plenty to give, and you always give.
Plenty.
We know that. We know that you always give.
And the devotees here are waiting for you, Maharaj. After last year's visit, they're all looking forward to your visit in Harrisburg. I know we are all waiting for you. So we look forward to your return.
Vrindavanath saved me from all this stuff that they're throwing at me. You know, kind of counteract this, tell them my real nature.
We might end up having a Krishna Balaram tug of war, Maharaj, waiting for you.
Well, tug of war is something more in line with my mood of the activity.
Bring everybody, Mataji, to London in month of June in retreat.
I will try, but Prabhu, I don't have the ability to transport everyone in the Vaikuntha plane, but only Maharaj can do that.
It's well, you know, it is a big austerity because you'd have to pay for international flight to get there. But you know, for those who can come. And those who think they may be able to come.
I'll get
And
the
those-
details from Sri Devi.
And those who want to come and don't think they can come should come anyway.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the devotees, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity that we can connect with all of you all over the world. Such a nice devotee sangha. Really, really relish this association. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank
Thank
you
you, Guru
for
Maharaj. Thank you.
organizing.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you, Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank
Hare
you, Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, are you in Eco Village?
Yeah,
Yeah, lovely.
yeah, I'm in Echo Village, and
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
dear.
I mean 38 degrees Celsius during the day.
Mm.
And it's
Very
going to get up to, in about a couple of weeks, it'll be up to 45. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
you really like to, you like some warm weather. Here it is. Mayapur is cool compared to here.
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare-
you, Anasuya, for
Thank
hosting this
you.
wonderful-
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.